Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'll be doing a review for the brand new film Run, Hide, Fight, which is the first feature-length film from the company known as the Daily Wire. You might know them as a conservative news organization that have hosts such with the names such as Ben Shapiro. I have now shot this video several times for this beginning, and I'm just going to go ahead and go with it because it has been way too many times at this point. But Run, Hide, and Fight, as it says right here from Wikipedia, is a 2020 American action thriller written and directed by Kyle Rankin, starring Thomas Jane, Radha Mitchell, and Isabel May. It follows a high school sieged by a quartet of school shooters. A very, very, very intense moment, and I think that especially this movie hit me very hard, more so because I am a teacher, and so this was an event, and as it folded out, I was like, I know a lot of these policies, I know a lot of these protocols, and I thought it was very interesting how they were able to use a lot of those things in this story about, as it says very clearly there, school shooters. Now, let me just put off this right off the bat to say that I think this film is really cool for the very fact that it is now an independent film, and the Daily Wire has obviously been wanting to get involved with more cultural issues. They don't want to just be a news organization. They want to actually try and start influencing the culture, and the way that you influence the culture is through different mediums like video games, like movies, like TV shows, and so this being their first foray into it, I must say, I think, be supported, and I think that any news organization or any organization in general that wants to have a positive impact on the culture and try and tell stories that maybe aren't being told, especially in modern day Hollywood, I think that they should be commended for it. That all being said, I think Run, Hide, Fight is a film that has a lot of issues, and it's not really that surprising because this is indeed their first movie. It's very rare that a brand new production company is going to be able to put out a major hit in their first release, especially a movie that's going to essentially be hidden behind a paywall, at least for the foreseeable future. I was able to see this film because I do have access as a member of the Daily Wire, and this is something that I don't really utilize all that much, so I was actually happy last night as I was about to go to bed to see, oh, wait a minute, they've actually released this film now officially onto that app, and was actually able to watch it in bed, which may not be the best place to watch a movie on your phone at night, but it was actually enough, and it was kind of thrilling enough that it actually kept me and had my attention for the entirety of the movie. And so I will say that as far as positives go, there is a great thrilling aspect to this movie. I think a lot of that is really helped by the fact that you have this young actress, Isabel May, who honestly I believe is the star of this movie, and not just because she has the lead role, but because she just steals every single moment that she is on screen with. I had never ever seen her before or heard of her before. Apparently she's done only a few other projects. She's done a film called Let's Scare Julie to Death. She was also available as a character on Young Sheldon as a recurring role, and also had a main role in a show called Alexa and Katie. But to me, I thought that she did a fantastic job in this movie and was really able to capture the emotions of what it would be like to be trapped in a school while all of this craziness is going on. She also plays a very interesting and compelling and very complex role because she is someone who obviously has recently lost her mother and is having to try and make her way through life with just her father, who's trying to teach her basically these basic necessities of life, and he's doing it in the very beginning of the film by teaching her essentially how to hunt and also how to show mercy when one does that kind of hunting. And it's really interesting to see how they try and combine those different elements together, right? Where it's not just being taught how to hunt, but also having life lessons taught in the process as well. Her father is played by Thomas Jane, who I'm going to say right now, I really wish was in the movie a lot more because I'm a big fan of his. For those who don't know, he was in one of the first films that was released under the Punisher brand, right? He was the first Punisher in film. And I thought that he actually did a very good job in that role. In this role, I honestly think that it's not the best performance that he's ever given, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that his role was very, very limited as, again, a father trying to get by with having just lost his wife, trying to teach his only child, his daughter, basically how to live life. And obviously there's those disconnects there. That's something that, again, a father might not be able to understand what a younger girl is going through, especially in high school. Again, she's a high school senior in this capacity. There's also some interesting relationships among the young actors in the high school playing these different characters, and I thought that almost all of the high school age characters all did a very good job, even going all the way to those that were playing essentially playing the shooters. I thought that all of them were really compelling. Again, they were playing despicable characters doing insane things, and I thought that they were able to really capture that emotion very well. I will say though, that kind of is where the limit of my positives go, is the performances. I thought the performances were the best part of this movie, and everything else kind of falls apart. I thought that the story overall was very bland, was really nothing all that special. I honestly think that it was kind of a weird choice for them to kind of go into this Columbine aspect, because it had a lot of, to me, a lot of, a lot of connections to and a lot of similarities to the event that happened in Columbine so many years ago. And to me, it's just kind of weird to tell a story from that perspective. I understand what they were trying to do with it, essentially turning this high school girl into someone, oh, she's been trained in how to use a weapon, and oh, she is someone that's, more willing to, help her friends and is willing to, fight back in this capacity. Right? Run, hide, fight is actually the process by which she goes through the film, right? She starts off by running, and then eventually she's hiding, and then eventually, boom, she comes back into the fight itself. And I thought that the way it was written, even though I think it was trying to be very clever, and I think that it could have worked had it been done by a more polished writer and a more polished director, could have worked better, really, I think, honestly misses the mark in a lot of different ways. And so the writing to me wasn't very good. The other thing I noticed, and this may have been because I was listening on my headphones in my bed on my iPhone, but I just noticed that the audio quality just didn't really seem all that great either. Normally when you expect a lower budget film or an independent production to come out of a studio like this, that you're going to have those kinds of issues. But for me, I've always been much more of an audiophile. I actually care a lot more about the sounds and what I'm hearing more so than the visuals, even though I am very much obsessed with cinematography and the framing of a shot. To me, if you have bad audio, then that's where I'm going to stop. That's where I'm going to get so distracted by it that it's going to be very hard for me to look past it to see whether or not the framing is any good or the cinematography is any good. The cinematography was definitely passable for this. Again, Darren Moran was the guy who did the cinematography for this film, and I thought that he did a decent job. The editors also, again, did a competent job. I think all of those levels, as far as the production goes, like the behind-the-scenes stuff, was all done competently. It's a competently made movie. It does not look cheap. It does not look like it was made by a brand new production company, let alone a company called the Daily Wire, let alone a conservative news company. But I do think that the audio is where it kind of fell apart in that capacity. And I think that hopefully for their next project, because I'm assuming this film is going to do relatively well. However, I don't know exactly how they expect to make money off of it. Obviously, they've got their supporters who have subscriptions to the Daily Wire service, but I don't know if they're going to plan to put this out into major theaters or not. And also, I will say that the response from critics has actually really not been very, very good. I decided to pull up Metacritic because you all know I hate Rotten Tomatoes. I think their system is broken. And obviously the access media there it's just a group of people that cannot be trusted for their movie reviews, at least honest movie reviews. And so here you can see on Metacritic, it's got a 13, and it says here that critics overwhelmingly dislike this movie, with the highest grade from the Hollywood Reporter being given at a 30. You have other major names like The Telegraph giving it a 20, and then you have IndieWire giving it a 0. Here is what they say. They say, Run, Hide, Fight is a glib, artless, and reprehensibly stupid thriller that doesn't even have enough on its mind to be provocative. It's a movie made by someone who's seen too many movies and now made at least one too many as well. That is a scathing review. However, if you go ahead and look to the reviews from people, regular everyday people, you have 8 so far, and they've given it a 9.5 rating. And so I think that this is a movie that most regular everyday movie watchers are going to enjoy. I think there are a lot of really cool thriller elements to the story. As I said, the performances from the kids are able to keep you really, tied into the story. And as I said, I was watching this late at night, and it kept me up. It kept me continuing on in the movie. At no point did I want to shut it off because it was bad. It was just a film that it was fine. It kind of goes back into previous reviews that I've done on different movies where it falls more so into that B or C level range, right? Where it's not anything great. It's not anything revolutionary except for the fact that it's made and distributed by the Daily Wire, right? And so obviously that is a huge an historical moment for them. But at the same time, if I'm going to look at this as an objective film, there are a lot of flaws that it has, most notably in its writing and its direction. And when you look at the fact that it was done by this guy, Kyle Rankin, he really isn't known for all that much. Again, if you look to what he's done something called The Witch Flies, Night of the Living Dead, Nuclear Family, Exhibit B5, Infestation. Again, just a lot of random titles that I've never heard of before. And obviously, when you're talking here about the Daily Wire, it's going to be very hard for them to get anyone involved who has any type of pedigree, because we all know Hollywood is overwhelmingly a liberal institution, right? It's very overwhelmingly leftist. And so it's going to be very hard to get even a centrist or even right-leaning personality involved, because they would probably immediately get blackballed and blacklisted by anyone involved in the industry. And that actually, I think, kind of helps to expose just how sad the current state of Hollywood actually is, where just because you have a different political opinion, it means somehow you cannot be worked with. Somehow you cannot be a part of the process. So that's one of the reasons why the Daily Wire had to basically work on their own. They had a couple of partners in how, they made the film in general, that they were able to kind of get them to help out. But it is really sad. It really is sad to see a film that could have been really good. Again, I think the concept in general was quite interesting. I just think that there was just so many other things that were holding this film back from living up to its full potential. Not really the cast. I thought the cast, as I said, was just completely fantastic. But when it comes to just the writing and direction, that was the biggest issue with this movie that I had. It was not a very well written story. It was not very well executed. But to say that it's a 13 or a 0 or a 10, to me is just, again, the liberal media, who we all know are in cahoots with Hollywood and all these other groups, are obviously going to hate on this film more so than any other movie. Don't get me wrong, this film is not very good. I think that this film should probably be in the 40s to 60s range on a site like Metacritic if they were being honest. But when you have someone giving a 0 to a movie that is at least competently made, all the while those same idiots are probably giving very high scores to films that are really bad, but because there's liberal agenda in it, they're going to go ahead and prop it up, I think is something that absolutely needs to be called out. So kudos to the Daily Wire for getting this film done, for getting it out there. I hope they're able to make some money back on it. Obviously, it is still right now only available if you are a Daily Wire subscriber. I don't think it's going to be really worth getting the subscription over there. I don't know exactly what their monthly rate is. So as I said, I don't know if it would be worth getting it just to see this movie. I think it might be worth waiting for this film to be released on demand, or maybe if it gets a small release in theaters, the theaters that are actually able to be open, maybe it'd be, I think worth seeing for, maybe that $5, matinee pricing. But if you really want to see it, right, if you really want to support what Daily Wire is doing, then I would say, yeah, go ahead and sign up at the Daily Wire and go ahead and show your support behind them and watch the film in the process, right? Get that content in the process, and it's kind of like getting a bonus. Again, if you want to support the work of what they're doing, not just from a political perspective, but from a cultural perspective as well. Again, I think that this film does have some important, cultural tones in there, because there is this sense of respect for police. There is this sense of respect for those types of legitimate authorities, but it's also, I think, very much about personal choices. It's also about individual activity, because you have this young woman who is doing a lot of things on her own and is not just waiting around for someone to help her, right? She's not just waiting for a handout. She's actually actively doing something. Now, obviously, it's kind of weird to have that happen in the framework of a school shooting. Again, I think that was just a little bit too, I don't know if I would have gone in that direction for their first movie, but I do definitely see that they were definitely stressing the individualistic nature of the human person and why that is so very important. And also you have some relations there with Thomas Jane as the father, showing that same sense of being an individual taking action of his own later on in the movie, not going into any spoilers of how things work out or anything like that. But once again, huge shout out to Daily Wire for being able to actually get this film off the ground. Huge shout out also to Isabel May, who I thought was fantastic in this movie. I think she did a really good job. What also is amazing is that she's a strong female character, but of course you're not going to hear any of that in these reviews, because obviously they want to tear this film down because of the politics behind it. But don't get me wrong, this film is not perfect. This film has a lot of issues, and so if I had to give this film a grade, my initial grade was a C+, but I think the more that I think about the movie, and the more that I think about the flaws and issues, especially within the writing, I'm going to give this film a solid C. All right. I don't think it's a terrible film. I think it's a fine movie. I think it's a film that most people could watch and have a general enjoyment of. But overall, it's not a film that I think is going to, surprise anybody. It's not a movie that I plan to, buy for my Blu-ray collection because I want to see it again. If anything, if it becomes available on Blu-ray, it'd be saying, hey, I want to have it because this is a sense of history, right? It's this independent company from a news organization trying to have an impact on culture through cultural institutions like movies, obviously trying to work outside of the Hollywood system. And I think that is something that everyone should support. It's very similar to how when I bought the Blu-ray for The Interview, the reason why was because that's one of the first films to ever be completely blacklisted from a lot of theaters because of fear of Korean respondents. And I think that was made that film kind of culturally significant. In the same way, Run, Hide, Fight is going to fall into that same category, despite what any of the critics might be saying. Again, the movie is fine. It's not fantastic. It's not the best thing ever, but it's also not total garbage either. And so again, it's really going to be up to you about whether or not you want to have access to it early by signing up with the Daily Wire, or not. But let me know your thoughts about this. Have you actually seen Run, Hide, Fight? Anyone out there who might also have subscriptions to the Daily Wire service, let me know in the comment section below. Or if you have any interest in, pursuing it. Right now, as I said, the only way I know that this film is available currently is through that service. I'll go ahead and try and see what it says here. It says that the film was acquired by the Daily Wire for the North American distribution rights of the film, and it will premiere on their platform as of yesterday. Again, there was a premiere last night. From the initial response, I thought it wasn't going to be available till today, but it was actually available around 10:30 last night when I started the movie. As I said, it was good enough for me to stay interested and intrigued in the story, even though the whole time I was watching it, I definitely did feel this sense of the story really not living up to it. So maybe it'll get released further. Honestly, at this point, I don't know. But let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash the like button, smash the rumble button if you're watching over there. Remember to support all free speech platforms. Check me out, especially over at minds.com. A referral link will be in the description. It is where most of my activity is going to be centered on because they respect free speech, but also just by interacting with people and having conversations with people, you actually can gain cryptocurrency. Not a whole lot, but the fact that in your social interactions, you can actually gain some crypto and get involved with that, I think is a pretty cool concept. But anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my January 2021 Patreon and Subscribestar members: Albertus Magnus, Ali C83, Andrew Hoyle, animation commentator Brian P, Dion, Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, The Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jay, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Laura Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his beautiful twin with the beautiful hair, Orange Hat Reviews, On to June, Out of Step with Reality, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B. Thank you very much for being my Patreon members. And also a huge shout out to my Subscribestar peeps: Stan 4, John B, Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, Darkstar 57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nevadan G. Adams, and ZK Man. You guys are all freaking amazing. Thank you so very much for being supporters. If you want your name shouted out, please consider joining on Patreon, where for $1 a month, you can get your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream. For $5 a month, you get access to that, and also you get access to exclusive giveaways, where I give away 4Ks, Blu-rays, digital codes, etc. $10 a month will get you all that, plus also access to a special podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger. Lots of fun. We do Q&As from that as well, so you get access to asking those Q&As, asking us any wide variety of questions. And for $25 a month, you get all of that stuff, plus you get to be featured once a month on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream. And also for that first month, you get a free t-shirt shipped anywhere throughout the world. So if you want to consider any of those things, please check out the links in the description below, where you can find my Subscribestar and Patreon, and also other ways to support the channel. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.